Overrated, a word that means rated or valued too highly. This word can apply to many things in life, from different types of food, movies, TV shows, and many other things. But obviously, I'm here to talk about the NBA, and in the NBA, I think there are some overrated NBA players. So in today's video, I'll be naming 4 players who I think are a bit overrated. And I realize this is a topic that will have a lot of people disagreeing with me, which is absolutely fine. But often when people hear the word overrated, they think it means that I'm saying the player is bad. But that's far from the truth. But before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video to help my channel grow, subscribe to my channel if you want weekly NBA content, and to help me reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers. And comment on this video, start a conversation with me. I'll respond to all of my comments and play that intro. The first overrated player that I want to talk about hasn't really been overrated this season to a degree, but I think in general, I think his whole career is overrated, and that is Kevin Durant. And before I get into this, I'm not a KD hater who is oblivious to how great he is. I think he's the 3rd best player in the NBA right now, and arguably the 2nd best, and I think he's top 50 in all time, and he's the greatest scorer ever. I get all that, and I don't think much people overrate KD, but I think he's overrated when people try and bring him into the top 10 or compare him to LeBron. He's not on his level. A lot of times when people try and say that KD is better than LeBron, their argument is that he beat LeBron 2 times in the NBA Finals. But those wins honestly weren't impressive at all, since in 2017 he was on the greatest team in NBA history, and in 2018 he was on a super team and he was versing one of the worst finals teams ever. And to his credit, in both of those series he played fantastic, but it didn't prove anything that he couldn't do before, or it didn't prove anything. Yeah, it just didn't prove anything to me. Because if you watch those finals, you realize that teams would constantly double and trap Steph, as well as focus all their attention on him, and that freed up the best scorer in NBA history to attack defenders one-on-one. And anyone should have expected him to dominate, since he is unguardable. Guys like LeBron, Kawhi, and Steph have won championships on teams that are completely stacked, and they have won championships while the opposing team was focusing their whole defense on them, as Kawhi did it in 2019 impressively with a good Raptors squad, but they're far from stacked. And I don't care what you say about LeBron's Miami teams, they were not a super team, because although Chris Bosh is very underappreciated, he was a fringe all-star. And in his Cleveland teams, they weren't a super team because Kevin Love was not an all-star all the time in the playoffs, and Kyrie was really good. I don't think that makes them a super team, and obviously the Lakers are not a super team right now. If you think that, you're dumb. Steph Curry won a championship in 2015 on a Warriors team that was far from a super team, and Curry led his team all the way to Game 7 in the finals while beating Durant in the conference finals. And in that series, Curry played great while Durant was choking. Durant had his chance to lead his team to the finals and actually win the championship, not lose to LeBron. And he could have won a championship that was actually respected. In the 2016 conference finals, the Thunder were facing the Warriors, who had a 73-9 record and were playing great. But surprisingly, OKC would go up 3-1 against the Warriors, and everyone thought OKC was going to for sure win and go to the finals. But in the 3 games after they went 3-1, game 4, 5, and 6, 5, 6, and 7, Durant did terribly, averaging 32 points, which does sound good, but he did it on a terrible 39% from the field and 26% from 3. Absolute choke job. And it wasn't just those 3 games. The whole series, he just wasn't good, as he averaged 30 points, shooting 42% from the field and 28% from 3, which is way worse than his usual self. The main reason they went up 3-1 in the first place was because of Russell Westbrook, who averaged 27 points, 12 assists, and 4 steals in the first 4 games of the series. So basically, I don't think Durant is on LeBron's level all time, or even right now. And I think people who think like that overrate him, and a lot of people think like that. So to me, that makes Kevin Durant an overrated player. The second player I want to discuss who I think is overrated is the Miami Heat's second-year guard in Tyler Herro. And if I'm being honest, I'm not the first person to bring up the fact that I believe Herro is overrated. And more people have realized that he's not as good as others think, but I still think there are a lot of people who overrate him. And the most noticeable thing they do is by putting Herro over other young players, along with overrating his potential. I've seen people put Herro over players like RJ Barrett and even De'Aaron Fox and John Morant. I know it sounds crazy, but I actually have seen people argue that they think that he's better than those players. And a lot of people have said that Herro has the potential to be the Devin Booker for the Miami Heat, which isn't the craziest thing in the world, but the way the people say it is as if he's 100% going to be a player on Booker's level. And I honestly don't think Herro will be that good in his prime, because Devin's going to be a top 10 player when he reaches his prime. I just don't think Herro will be that. I see him as a top 30 player, similar to CJ McCollum level of player. Also, when James Harden was going to get traded, the Miami Heat were in the rumors a lot, but Miami was unwilling to trade Tyler Herro for him, so that's why the trade didn't go through, and many of the fans did not want to see Herro get traded for James Harden, which is just stupid, and that is clearly overrating him, since Herro will never be as good as Harden, and the difference between him and Harden is astronomical. And I think if the Heat had gotten Harden, they would be the favorites to come out of the East, over the Nets, Bucks, Celtics, anyone. I also have seen Heat fans claim that they wouldn't want Miami to trade Tyler Herro in exchange for Bradley Beal, which is straight up stupid. Herro's a good player, don't get me wrong, but he's not a great one and he's really overrated. Okay, this next player might really get people mad, because the third player on this overrated list is Damian Lillard. But before I get into why I think he's overrated, I want to say that I think Dame is the second best point guard in the NBA and that he's a top 10 player in the league. But basically, the main reason I think Dame is a bit overrated is the fact that I think there's too much people who legitimately and honestly think that Lillard is better than Steph Curry. And it's simply not true, because Dame has had way more playoff disappointments than Curry. Because if you think about it, outside of the 2016 finals, Curry has always been solid in the playoffs. And I'm not saying there's a ginormous difference between the two, but there is definitely a significant margin where it's clear who's the better player. Because Steph is just better because he moves off the ball way better, which makes him way harder to guard, and it makes him harder to game plan for. It also makes Curry more impactful, since defenses have to really focus on him moving off the ball, which creates open shots for his teammates. Also, Curry takes even more difficult threes and takes more threes than Lillard, and he shoots a way higher percentage. Also, a majority of stats just show that Curry is a better player, and his body of work just shows that he's a better player as well. Dame is not nearly as good as Curry, if we're being honest, but he's good. He's a superstar. He's not better than Curry, but he's better than Kyrie. The fourth and final player who I think is overrated is someone who will cause a lot of controversy, and that is Jimmy Butler. And last year, I won't lie, Jimmy was underrated and his playoff run was pretty amazing. He deserves a lot of credit for it because he was the biggest part that happened. But let's not act as if he didn't have guys like Goran Dragic, Bam Adebayo, and basically the whole team step up. And overall in the whole playoff run, people acted as if he averaged 25, 28 points and was carrying, which he absolutely wasn't doing, since he averaged an impressive 22.6 rebounds and 6 assists while shooting 48% from the field, which is definitely good, but not as good as some others have made it out to be. And in the finals, Jimmy was really good, and that's a big reason why to me he's a top 12 player in the league, because Jimmy has proven that he's a guy who will step up in big moments. But I think some people start to believe that Jimmy is a guy who plays how he did in the finals the whole regular season, and that's simply not true, because over the past 2 seasons he has been barely averaging 20 points, and it's clear to me that he coasts throughout the regular season, which is fine, but nonetheless he's not as good in the regular season as he is in the postseason. Jimmy Butler and Paul George are often compared, and although I do think Jimmy is better since he actually shows up in the playoffs unless playoff trash, but in the regular season, don't get it twisted, Paul George is a better player. But I actually like Jimmy, so it's tough to say this, but to me some people overrate his playoff run last year, and that just makes him a bit overrated to me. To conclude, I just want to say that a lot of these players aren't overrated by all or maybe even half of the fans, but certain opinions of these players are simply not true, and I believe there are enough fans who believe in those opinions enough to make these players overrated. I don't dislike or hate any of these players, by the way. Anyways guys, that's it for the video. Let me know if you agree or disagree with what I said in the video. Drop a like on this video to help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want weekly NBA content and to reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers. And comment on this video, start a conversation with me, as I do respond to all of my comments. And I'm out.